One of Israel's greatest successes that you describe in the book is the transformation of the existential condition of the Jew, who went from the fearful individual who had to depend on the conditional welcome of host countries, and these are welcomes that invariably always ran out, to the proud, self-reliant Jew who was able to defend himself. And I think, though you wrote the book in the past couple of years, I think this sentiment or this transformation rings truer now in the aftermath of October 7th than even you may have anticipated when writing it. Can you speak to this transformation?
I think you're absolutely right. Look, in certain ways, what happened on October 7th, and I know this is a pointed way of saying it, but I don't think it's unfair. It's painful, but I don't think it's unfair. Zionism had promised the Jewish people that Europe won't come here. Zionism had promised the Jewish people that we're going to create a state, and we're not going to be victims like that anymore. And on October 7th, the state that Zionism had created failed 1,200 people who were murdered and much worse on the spot, and several hundred people who were captured. So there was a failure there. But the response, the failure was the failure of the state. The response of the people was exactly the proof of the success of what Zionism had promised. The fundamental promise of Zionism wasn't really a state. A state was a means to an end. The state was the means to doing something much bigger and much more important, which was to recreate the Jew. Rabbi Kook, Bialik, Herzl, they all had different conceptions of what that Jew was going to be like, but they all had a sense that the Jew needed to be, the Jew was being diagnosed. Pinsker diagnosed the malady of the Jew. He was actually a doctor, and he used his medical training to actually diagnose what was wrong with the Jew in Europe. And there were many things that were wrong with the Jew in Europe. They said that we don't speak our own language. Well, now we do. And we are not able to defend ourselves. Now we can. We don't work our own land. You know how many thousands of Israelis, including us, have gone back to the fields in recent weeks to bury pipes to olive trees and to discover mussels in the morning after that we didn't even know that we had, or to pick avocados. I mean, there's lots of ways in which those old Zionist writers have come back to life. And I think that as tragic as what's happening in Gaza right now is, and as frightening as what looms in the northern border remains, and we don't know what's going to happen with Yemen, and we don't know what's going to happen in Yehuda v'Shomron, and we don't know what's going to happen with Iran. There's a lot of things that we don't know. The way that young Israelis have responded to this challenge, and the bravery that they have shown, and the dedication that they have shown, and I want to actually go out further on the branch, the dedication that people showed to their love of the country even before the war, when the country was deeply divided about issues about judicial reform. What we now know clearly is that those people who were accused by some of being anarchists and non-patriotic, whatever, those pilots who said that they weren't going to fly were in their cockpits 2.5 hours after the attack. The attack was 6:30 in the morning, and at 9 a.m. they were in the air. And those people who were said they didn't care about Israel anymore, it was all about the, I want to code and go public generation. They cared a lot more than anybody imagined that they could. They knew that they cared, but they cared a lot more than many people imagined. And I think what we've seen is an extraordinary display of the degree to which people, religious and secular and younger and older and left and right and immigrant and native, in many cases, by the way, Jew and non-Jew as well, have devoted their lives and their utter existence to the vision behind what the Jewish state is. And while the last 70-something days have been unbelievably painful, and we are in for some very, very bad days, I fear, still to come, the idea that Zionism promised, which was that it was going to create a new Jew, it was going to transform the Jew, has been fully realized. All you have to do is look at the pictures of the Jews after pogroms in Europe, and look at the pictures of Jews in Gaza today, and to say, yes, we suffered attacks in both cases, but the response and the difference in the response is actually the proof of the genius of the vision that Rav Kook and Theodor Herzl and dozens of women and men who followed them all had.